And we are back. Another episode of the Lombardi podcast. Appreciate you for being here, sir. Bryan Broaddus, 105.3 The Fan, DallasCowboys.com. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent, man. I've missed you the last couple of weeks. As they say, it's been a minute, right?
Stuff, man. You know, weather, life, hurting, pain, graduation coming next week, so we ain't doing it next week. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on right now.
A lot of stuff going on, man.
Yeah, but once we get...
Nice to be with you. It is great to be with you, as always.
Man, thank you so much. Once we get going, we will get going. Now, Bryan, I've been working on something for the past 3 weeks, and I just want to take you on this journey. And look, it could work and it could not work, but with your blessing, I guess we can just cross that bridge. So here we go. This is what I wanted to do. I have an intro for my show. It sounds like this.
Hey, Voch.
And boy, my audience loves it, bro. Yeah. My audience loves it, Bryan. So I was like, damn, boy, I want to do something like this for Bryan. But who the hell says Bryan Broaddus, right? So I went to this website called Genius. I did a search for Broaddus just to try to find rap lyrics that says the name Broaddus. And let me tell you how I failed twice. And let me tell you what I just came up with. Kid Cudi got a little line in one of his songs, right? And it sounds like this. Wait. Here we go. Kid Cudi got a little line in his song. It sounds like this. Stay blazed like Broaddus. Stay blazed like Broaddus, but you're Broaddus. You're not Broaddus. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, dog, that don't work. But it's alluding to Snoop. Watch this, Bryan. Watch this. And then I went to Snoop, right? He got a song called The Broaddus Boys. I know he about to say Broaddus and the Broaddus Boys.
Yeah.
And boy, Bryan, that works, but my name ain't Broaddus. So we can't be the Broaddus Boys because my name ain't Broaddus. And the only thing I came up with is I had to use AI and I had to grab an instrumental and I got Snoop to say this.
Bryan Broaddus on the Lombardi show. What up, nephew?
That's all I got. So,
man, I appreciate your effort. You know, it's funny because Snoop's last name is Broaddus.
Yeah.
So I was telling Jeff was trying to come up with some catchy thing too. Jeff Kavanaugh, our good buddy, and I said, well, man, just anything with Snoop. I mean, Snoop's got the last name of Broaddus, so anything you play with Snoop is kind of the same thing. But I do appreciate your effort. That AI stuff is amazing, by the way.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying what we can do with that nowadays. Yeah.
One day they're gonna make the AI thing talk Cowboys, and we won't have a job, and then we got to blow this whole.
Don't
damn
say
thing
that,
up.
bro. Don't say that.
I know, but we're here. We're here to talk some Cowboys. We're here to talk some Cowboys. Just want to have a little fun. Maybe we'll use one of these clips when I find something appropriate for you. Bryan Broaddus is incredible, and I got to have an incredible drop for you. But OTAs are going on, right. Bryan Broaddus, and it's not a whole bunch that we can get from the OTAs because it's not like they got pads on. It's not like they lining up and whooping each other for real, but they can whoop on each other a little bit. And you always say you can learn a lot by watching where people line up, by watching who goes out first, by looking at formations and things like that. So we just been reading notes. We've been looking on the social media. We've been hearing chirps. Do you have any outside looking in takeaways, and me and you can go down some of these because I have a few, but I would love to hear what you would have.
No, the main thing that I'm taking from the OTAs, and you mentioned it's about the ability to line up. Mm-hmm. Are they playing guys with first units, second units? Are they playing guys that are down in their where they were drafted, or are they third, fourth team guys? And that's where you can kind of get a little bit of an understanding of where guys might initially in their plans filter out. The thing that it wasn't surprising to me at all, Voch, was the Cowboys offensive line situation where Chuma Doga was the starter at left tackle and Brock Hoffman was the starter at center. We knew going in that even though we've seen the Cowboys through the years plug and play guys and have great success, that Mike Solari was not going to allow that to happen. He was not going to let Tyler Guyton or BB be the starter right off the jump. So, those are the kinds of things that you kind of you take from. I think there was a lot of questions that were being asked about Micah Parsons in his situation. We got into that on the break. We've got into that on 105.3 The Fan. When's he coming in? What's his situation and all those things. So, the OTAs, the initial ones, you're just trying to get an idea of where these guys are going to line up. Going to the going to the rookie mini camp, it was all about, hey, listen, practice field is here, fundamentals is here, this is how we stretch and all that. But with the veterans, you get a little bit of a different idea, a little bit different of the flavor of it. So they're going to throw as much as they can at these rookies and these undrafted kids and see which one of them has the ability to retain and take it from the classroom to the field and then be able to function and not completely fall apart. So initially it's a learning curve for a lot of these guys, but just had a feeling that the coaches were going to take veteran players and put them ahead of rookie players. Now, if I was a scout in the organization, I would remind Mike Solari that every first-round offensive lineman that we've ever drafted here has been a plug-and-play guy. So we might want to think about that when you're talking about Brock Hoffman and Chuma Doga and guys like that. Yeah, you got to earn your way, I guess, according to the coach. But the intent was we drafted Guyton to be our left tackle. We drafted BB to be our center. Let's not lose sight of the big picture here. Again, that's Brian Broaddus talking with you right now. If I was a scout in that department or if I was Will McClay, I would remind Mike Solari the big picture of what we're thinking about here.
And I love what you're saying. And I think all that earn your star mess is cool if you're like Marshawn Nealon or something. You know what I mean? If you're like Ryan Flournoy and all them guys, like that's cool. Yeah. We're having an emergency at left tackle and we have an emergency at center. I know they love Brock Hoffman, but I got eyes too, Brian. I got eyes too. Look, I love Brock Hoffman also, but real recognize real. 78th overall pick. Let's just stop kidding ourselves here, right? Especially when you look at the schedule and it's a bunch of gangsters that's about to line up at defensive end, and there's a lot of gangsters that's about to line up in B gap and A gap. Let's stop kidding ourselves, right? And I don't feel any discomfort about the whole Guyton thing. I think we're going to get in a couple of weeks and we're going to look and he's going to be right out there. There should be no reason Chuma Doga is out there no longer than the next couple of weeks. But Brian, I think we're going to get real deep into training camp and Brock Hoffman's still going to be lining up at center number one. I don't think it's going to have nothing to do with BB. And I say this though, Brian, because we were like when we drafted Tyler Smith, right?
Right.
We were tapping our watches on when Connor McGovern can sit down. Like, all right, man, let's go ahead and get Tyler Smith in here. But Connor McGovern first team. I kept reading the reports on Twitter. Connor McGovern first team. Connor McGovern first team. And it took an emergency like Tyron Smith getting hurt for Tyler to finally get inserted in the lineup. I don't want us to have to wait until preseason week 3 for us to be like, all right, we'll roll BB and we'll roll Guyton out there. I don't want to wait that long because you need all this continuity talk they love to talk about, Brian Broaddus. You might want to start that right now. You might want to start that as soon as possible because we need both these rookies, man.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's why if I was Will McClay, and you have to be really, really careful when you're dealing with coaches. They're a very stubborn group. I know Mike Zimmer very, very well. I know Mike Zimmer's demeanor. I'm just talking about on the defensive side of the ball too. Mike is very much a bring me whoever you want, I'll coach him up guy. Some of these coaches, and especially offensive line coaches, get a little stubborn. They get a little stubborn about their players. They get a little stubborn. The offensive line coaches tend to love the try hard guy. They love the guy that's going to be first in, last out, ask questions, take notes. Tyler Guyton is your left tackle. Let's not make any bones about that. And BB, consensus around the scouting community is that Dallas might have also drafted a starting offensive lineman at 73. That is the consensus was that's a great pick by the Cowboys. And you're right. This offensive line, there's a lot of things that need to be improved there. To me, they've got to figure out a way to run the ball better. They've got to be more consistent with their fits and their finishes. And those are all things that Mike Solari can help them with. But when you're in the scouting department and you're drafting these kids and you're saying, okay, this is our guy, this is our tackle, okay, this is our center, okay, let's incorporate them as quickly as possible. I the same thing with Trey Lance. We can go down that path too if you want. I don't need to see anything from Cooper Rush. I'm sorry, I don't. Cooper Rush does not need to be taking second team reps. I have the utmost respect for Cooper Rush and his ability to win NFL games. His career, he's proven he can do that, and good for him. But this going forward, to me, I need to figure out Trey Lance really fast. And the next question I would ask these guys is, just out of curiosity, is what during the season, or not what, how was Trey Lance being prepped during the season? Were there extra practices? Were there scout team guys out there running routes, extra guys? Was he calling plays? Was he going up and down the field? A lot of these things will tell me, where he is. But what I need to do is I need to see him play. I need to see him practice. I need to see him playing games. And I need to get a handle on this real quick, because the path we're going down right now is your MVP caliber quarterback might not be here. And you might need to figure this out more sooner than later. The Cowboys have always seemed to have been not a sooner than later team. Sure. They allow things to go a little too far, and then they're like kind of scrambling to try and figure things out. So I think that these every practice rep with the second team, first team, whatever, it needs to be with Guyton, it needs to be with BB, and it needs to be with Lance getting those reps as well.
To your point about Lance, though, I think this is where politics can work in the opposite way, and it can favor us, because Lance does make the money. Like, he's on, you know what I mean? Like, he is. I think he's getting paid more than Rush, and just Lance being at practice, right? Let me just make sure I got the kids. Crooms, the wide receiver Crooms.
Yeah,
I never seen him. I never heard of Crooms. I don't need Trey Lance throwing the ball to Crooms. Nope. I need to know what Trey Lance looks like throwing to the Jalen's and throwing to Cooks and those guys, right?
Right.
And that's something else that when we talk about every preseason, right? I would love to get a look at these receivers, but Cooper Rush is not good enough to give us a good look at these receivers, right? So I think it'll be a perfect marriage, right? To insert Trey Lance and his arm talent or whatever we got, because I ain't seen him, Bryan. I ain't seen film on Trey Lance in years. I hate that, by the way. I would love to see what Trey Lance looks like with some of these receivers that really got something to prove here, like the Tolbert, Turpin, Cooks. CD's not there, like Cropper and those guys. I would love to see him throwing to those guys. So you're right, Bryan. We do need to figure out what the hell's going on with that. But go ahead, please go ahead.
No, to me, I don't believe in the wasted rep.
Sure.
And I think there's. People always say, well, there's battles at training camp and all that. I think going into training camp, when you look at your personnel board, you can find 53 players and tilt those tags. You could go in. Now, maybe some guys, will surprise you along the way. The tight end did a great job of, last year, the kid that came in, the undrafted kid, did a great job of coming in and almost making your team. Yeah. But, Stevens.
John Stevens Jr.
Yeah, John Stevens. And so I feel like, though, that to me, I'm big picture thinking now. I don't have time, or I don't have the luxury to think about a 2 or 3, 4 year plan now. If I'm the coaching staff, I've got to win now, and I got to win, and I got to find a way to win quickly before this thing gets away. Or then we're all sitting around like, I'm not into developing things. If I'm this coaching staff, I'm not into developing players for somebody else. I'm finding the best 53 right now, and I don't know necessarily if Brock Hoffman is one of the best 53. Yeah. I say that in a starting way, sure. not to be on the roster. But I kind of have an idea about the TJ Basses of the world and guys like that. Yeah. I need to figure out about Awesome Richards. Yeah. That's another one I need to figure out. There are several guys on this roster that they need to play at a high level and play quickly. Sam Williams, I'm looking at you. Tolbert, I'm looking at you. Mukwamu. I mean, there are so many guys now on this team that have been drafted in very, very high spots, second and third round guys that they've got not very much production from.
So,
but
Bryan,
those guys got to figure it out, and I need to see those guys right now.
So, Bryan, what are we missing with Hoffman? Because at the end of the day, I think the film is louder than anything else that they like. There's no workout, there's no work ethic, there's no every day at the he's there before we are. There's none of that. Ezekeil worked hard, but him not being good on the field is the reason why he's not here anymore, right? Like, what am I missing with Hoffman, man? Like, is it that much intangible stuff off the field that we're not seeing that just makes them? Because listen, man, this isn't just, oh, we like Joe Looney, he's versatile, he locker room, you know what I mean? This is like when you hear Solari talking about Brock Hoffman, he said, hey man, when the young guys get here, I want them to talk to the leadership. I want them to talk to Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, and Brock Hoffman. I say, what? He said the leadership, Bryan. He said talk to the veterans when the rookies get here. And then he mentioned Brock Hoffman. What does Brock Hoffman have to teach Tyler Guyton? I'm confused, Bryan. Like, what am I missing here?
Yeah, this is where we're at a disadvantage right now, you and I, and others that follow this team. Until we get to training camp and really sit down and like watch them in the one-on-one drills, watch them in 9-on-7, watch them in the team period, watch them in goal line. These are all things that right now are eluding us. And I've said this before. Joe Philbin tried to sell us on Terrence Steele. Mm-hmm. And I'm as guilty as anybody of throwing dirt on Terrence Steele. I didn't see it. I didn't see it coming out of Texas Tech. I didn't see it at the Senior Bowl. I didn't see it. There were a lot of things. But Joe Philbin kept talking about, no, this kid. And to the kid's credit, he played at a high level. He really did. Him and Zach Martin played. This might be Mike Solari's version of Terrence Steele, that the first in, last out, taking notes, working in the weight room, always around, asking questions. Maybe that is going to be the carryover that every time, and you're right, every time we interview him or we talk about BB as the center, he reminds us of Brock Hoffman. Yeah. Every time. And he doesn't even say Brock Hoffman's name. He just says, he doesn't say BB's name. He says Brock Hoffman. That's got to be, like I say, there's a point in time where you're gonna say BB. The eye test will show that BB's a better player. It'll show. The only thing right now is the intangibles that you speak of, because physically, Brock Hoffman is not as good as player as BB is. Just not. And I think the eye test is going to show that, and hopefully, when we get through training camp, that will play out, and then in fact, BB is your starting center.
So, in another case of politics as usual, let me ask you a question, Bryan. Mm-hmm. And this is in context to the running back room. Mm-hmm. Does seniority roll over? Let me explain. When Ezekeil Elliott is here, and he's your, year 1, year 2, year 3, and he slows down year 4, year 5. Mm-hmm. He has the ability with his seniority, Bryan Broaddus. Mm-hmm. He can call a better player off the field and say, I'm going in. We've seen him do it. With his seniority. Hey, Tony and Mike McCarthy and all the running back coaches skipping them. All right, Zeke going in, I guess. Tony, all right, Tony, explosive Tony. Go ahead and let Zeke limp out there. Yeah. He had seniority when he was here, Bryan. Zeke left to go play for the Patriots for 1 year. And I can hear Mike McCarthy saying, oh, yeah, Zeke's going to be different here. The role is different here. I have worries that Zeke's seniority is going to roll over. But I've never seen a situation like this where one of your elite guys leaves and he comes back and he's not that dude anymore. Bryan Broaddus, does seniority roll over? We can feel as good as we want about Rico. The front office you can. We can like Rico Dowdle and feel like he's the better player. And on film, he was. But can Zeke go and bring Rico off the field as Zeke go back in? Does seniority roll over, Bryan?
I'm going to remind you of a player that is in the exact mode you're talking about.
Jason Witten. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean,
fair enough.
Remember Jason Witten when he came back? It was 5 yards a catch. It was not anything after catch.
Yeah,
kind of felt like that. Okay, here's going to be the first down machine, the red zone machine. You know, none of that materialized.
Blocking Witten is what it just the blocker.
Yeah,
revolutionary.
My hope for the Dallas Cowboys is that Ezekeil Elliott doesn't have the same return as Jason Witten had. That's my hope. And I will say this. I think Zeke might be in a better place of understanding really where he's at. Now, he might get into that competitive situation where he's like, Rico Dowdle's not better than me. You know, all these Freeman, all these backs aren't better than me. And so then you get into that mode. I don't want the Cowboys coaching staff and front office, though, to fall in love with any of these running backs. I really don't. Because all of a sudden, if we see improvement in this offensive line, I tweeted about this morning to a gentleman. I don't want to see it where all of a sudden, you know, he said, well, can you tell if running backs are not any good in training camp? And I'm like, listen, their practices, if this offensive line looks improved and there are holes there and the backs aren't hitting them, or they're not getting to the outside, or they look slow, or they're not catching, or they're not pass protecting, I'm not waiting around like I did for Amari Cooper in week 4, week 5, and try and get a running back. I'm being proactive about this. I am not going to waste an opportunity to make my team better by waiting till week 5. I'm not going to do that. If they get into this training camp and all of a sudden Ezekeil, it looks like Jason Witten and Rico Dowdle is, you know, maybe he gets banged up, you know, maybe, he's dealing with he's got a hamstring he's dealing with, or, you know, quad or something like that. And now he's not practicing. I'm not waiting around. I'm going to be very proactive in this running back room. Like I said, I think they have a collection of guys right now, and they're going to try and sort that out. They got a collection of third wide receivers that they're going to try and sort out as well. So, but my thought is they are not going to wait till week 4 or 5 to address the running back situation if it doesn't look good in training camp.
The one thing I disagree with you on is I think Zeke still thinks he's that dude. If you go back, if you go back to the home run derby interview, we do our research over here, Bryan Broaddus. We go crazy. They was like, "Hey, yo, Zeke, man, how you feel?" They didn't say it like this. This is me saying it. "Hey, Zeke, how you feel about coming in here, being a new guy in a new role, and maybe not the guy that you once was?" And Zeke was like, "Man, I still think I'm dominant. You know, I still think I get to come in here and XYZ. Y'all can go watch at Cowboys.com. Ezekeil Elliott, Unfinished Business is the name of the video. I really feel like Zeke thinks, hey, man, change the scenery. We back in Dallas. New England was garbage. My O-line's probably going to be better. The offense is going to be better. I got a shot." And look, if you do want to optimism this up, Bryan, we've always lived in this world where teams sold out to, you know, beat Zeke and they forced Dak to beat us. Now Dak is an MVP runner-up. Maybe they want to take Dak away and Zeke will have lighter boxes to run in. If you want to super optimism your way through this. But Bryan Broaddus, I'm trying to get Tyler Algier up in here. I'm trying to get Justice Hill. I'm trying to call about I'm trying to call the Dolphins about one of their guys. They just drafted Jalen Wright. There you go. They got A-Chain, they got Moser. Hey man, let me get Jeff Wilson up in here. I think you can find somebody's 4th running back on their team and it'll be better than anything we got up in here, Bryan. No,
there's no question. Yeah. And and I totally get what you're saying about Zeke and the way he feels about this thing.
Sure.
I think deep down inside though, he knows. To me, man, I think the conversation I would have with him, I wouldn't promise him anything. I wouldn't. If I was Will McClay, I wouldn't promise him anything. I would say, listen, you want an opportunity to come back in here and compete and all that. If you could turn back the clock, great. And I appreciate his attitude about it, but he's going to have a specific role in this team, and but like I say, is he better than everybody else he's competing with? He might be. He really might be if you think about it. I mean, I know that the Rico Dowdles and those guys, I get it, but he might be better. But I'm not letting this thing just drag on into the season. I mean, if it looks like that it is not going to be an explosive group because of the approved offensive line. If we see all of a sudden they're blocking in training camp, they're blocking the fronts, and all of a sudden, the preseason they're blocking the fronts, it looks like, wow, they're getting this running game kind of geared up. The tight ends are blocking. I'm not wasting that on backs that can't make it happen. You're right. I'm getting on the phone. Who's got surplus? Yeah. I'm keeping an eye on every team that's got extra running backs. That's my mission. If I'm Will McClay, I'm telling my pro scouts, you give me a list of every team that has extra running backs, and we're going to follow those teams. We're going to get this, because you can't let this season, this offense fall apart, because you made a commitment to shoring it up with offensive linemen, but here you are now, trying to just Band-Aid it up with these backs. That's not going to work.
No. Marshawn Nealon was out there beating the hell out of Chuma Edoga, Bryan Broaddus.
Sure he was. What
do you project for him? Like, first year path, what's it look like? Sam is here, but I don't think Zimmer guy exists. You was just saying that a little bit ago. Hey man, just give me whoever and I'll just coach him.
That's Mike.
You know what I'm saying?
Mike.
So I don't think a Zimmer guy is a real thing. Even though Sam was already here, Sam is he's a previous administration guy. And if we know anything about Sam, he could be bratty, he could be complaining, he could be twittery. Hey, set me free, all that stuff. I'm not making nothing up. And it just seems like what I'm hearing from Marshawn Nealon is that he's violent, he loves football, he goes 110% every single play. And the first note that we get on defense that Marshawn Nealon's out there beating the hell out of Chuma Edoga badly. Now, there's a lot of people on the social medias that's going to poo-poo on that. Well, but Voch, Chuma Edoga's bad. I don't think Chuma Edoga is horrible. I just think Chuma didn't know the plays. But Chuma he's an NFL offensive lineman. Left tackle in the league is bad. You know what I mean? We just look at our teams, right? But Chuma is what a regular offensive lineman would look like. Bryan, what are you projecting for Marshawn Nealon year one?
You know what? I felt like that Marshawn Nealon clearly can give you run defense capabilities. I think the upper body power, the strength, the point of attack play, the ability to chase, not allow, not give up ground. I think that he is not a bendy guy. I thought this watching him come out of Western Michigan. I didn't think he was a particularly astute at getting to the corner and getting around the corner as we were watching that tape. Maybe things, maybe as Greg Ellis and others work with him, maybe he becomes a little bit more of that guy. There was never a question about his ability to play the run with me. Never. I just didn't know what kind of pass rusher he is. And if he develops that trait or that characteristic or makes that part of his game on a consistent basis, they hit on this pick. They'll hit on this pick because the kid does everything else you want him to do. He's just not a bendy rush player right now. And maybe it's about working with technique. Maybe it's about getting that first step. Maybe it's getting off the ball. Maybe it's playing a little wider. But they will find a way. Now, again, I feel like, though, that to me, maybe there were some guys that had a little bit more of that edge presence when it came to rushing the passer.
Sure.
But there wasn't a better one when it came to playing the run that I saw. And the fact that, Edoga is Edoga. We understand that. Edoga's technique doesn't always shine. There are times when they move the ball with Edoga in the game. You're right. I don't think Edoga knew what the hell he was doing in some of these instances of the game, and it cost.
Sure.
When you don't know, it cost you. But Nealon, to me, if he could learn how to rush the passer, he could help this team, because I don't think that Sam Williams could play the run well enough. Mm-hmm. If they're committed to stopping the run with these linebackers and these edges, and it wasn't all linebackers and defensive tackles that had problems stopping the run. The corners, the safeties, the edges weren't particularly great. And when I mean the edges that have walked out of this building, the guys that have left, and I'm a fan of Fowler as a pass rusher. I'm a fan of Armstrong as a pass rusher. But playing the edge in the running game was something they lacked.
I think Nealon has an opportunity to contribute more early than Sam, because if you look at like play styles, right?
Right.
All I've been hearing from Zimmer this offseason, just people talking about him talking, is we're going to not be conservative, but we're going to dial back on a lot of risk. So all this shooting gaps upfield, trying to get sacks and lead the league in sacks and all that, all the, I'm going to gamble to get picks and all. I think a lot of those numbers go down, but I think you're not going to have these James Cook games. I don't think you're going to have these Aaron Jones games, right? So if I had to look and I just don't have a better word for conservative, right? But Sam is the upfieldy, exploding guy. Yeah, the bendy guy. Marshawn is the he's also violent, but we're gonna keep everything in front of us. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna deal with this run. So I'm just me thinking and just guessing, right? I think maybe Nealon has a shot to get on the field first because hey, if y'all gonna run down early, maybe Zimmer's gonna rely on his corners more. Like, hey, man, we just want y'all to cover better to give D-Law and Nealon a better shot at getting to the quarterback early. But on rundowns, they're just gonna tear shit up front. I don't think this is gonna be about Mozzie much. You know what I'm saying? Like Mozzie's gonna be there. Mozzie's gonna be 330, but I think this is about taking care of the edges. This is about containing all this quarterback running on us, Bryan. I think that kind of goes away. Joe Burrow scrambling and shit, getting y'all. I think all that goes away. I just think that this thing's going to be a little more dialed back, not conservative, calculated. I think this thing's going to be a little more calculated and less upfield with my hair on fire. Now you got some hair on fire dudes, Louisville, Nealon are hair on fire dudes, but maybe it's Zimmer's job to kind of dial that back with them a little bit. I'm just guessing.
No, I think that, Mike has even come out and said, and he's alerted, people, that, listen, don't be surprised if we don't have a bunch of turnovers.
Sure.
And to me, Mike is more about being sound. Mike watched the Green Bay film and threw up in his mouth a little bit on defense.
Me too.
Some of the things that happened about that. Mike is like, listen, hey, we've got some really talented guys in the back end here. We could take advantage of that. Like the Carson kid they drafted, I think is going to be a real steal for them. I talked about him a bunch.
Sure.
But the thing with Mike is, he's a little bit more about play your assignment, and if you do your assignment, everybody doing their assignment, the defense will be fine. But you're right about the risk. I think Dan was a little bit more open to the risk of, hey, we got to make something happen. And I think Dan also tried to have to mask some things that they were having problems with. They didn't have enough linebackers. The edges I mentioned weren't very good. They lost one of their best corners during the season in practice. I think Dan was having to mask for some things. Maybe at safety, he was having to mask some things too. But Mike is a really buttoned up guy. Mike is not to the point of being stiff or anything like that, but like his approach. But Mike is about, you are going to play your assignment, you're going to play it well, and we'll play great defense if you do those two things.
So we have a feeling about what the linebacker room is going to look like. Eric Kendricks is going to be the Zimmer whisperer. He's going to come in and teach everybody the language. He's going to lead the way. He gets the green dot right now. You know what I mean? That just makes a little bit of sense here. But, Bryan, what does the rest of the linebacker situation look like? Because I don't think we've said a thing about Damone Clark. I don't think anybody said a thing about him the past couple of months or whatever. And look, he's played a lot of games for you, started a lot of games for you. And, when you had emergencies at linebacker, he was right there. And I guess he got better and then he tailed off and he get better and he tails off, right? Just a little inconsistent up and down. Any other year, we'll be like, hey, man, let's see what year 3 Damone Clark looks like, right? But is he the odd man out knowing that they love Louisville? They passed on running back to get Louisville. They love Overshown. Boy, they was hurt, and they just can't wait to get Overshown back to see what he does. Is Damone Clark odd man out, or does his experience and number of reps that he got last year, does that kind of, supersede the new guys here?
Mike is going to play smart linebackers. And I mean smart, I don't mean as off the field, dumb guy, smart kind of thing. I mean football intelligence smart. And Mike is going to put guys out there, and this is why guys like Kendricks and Leofau and those guys, if you remember, the whole thing was with Leofau. I mean, they talk about him like he's the second coming of pick whatever great Cowboy linebacker you want to talk about, because of, the way he gets after the ball, the football intelligence and all that. We saw with Overshown how he was able to adapt very quickly to the pro game. He's a former safety, defensive back. He's got a lot of those traits. He's put on weight. He's, hopefully the physical aspect. I think Britt Brown's got him ready to go. Britt's the associate athletic trainer who's in charge of the rehabs. He works on all these guys. Hopefully that will all be clean and he'll be fine to go. The thing with Clark is there are times where Clark does not play with instincts.
Yeah.
He does not play, does not read the play quick enough. And when you saw Leighton Vander Esch go out, Clark got affected. Because Vander Esch was able to, it was like he was tethered, like Clark was tethered to Vander Esch. And
Sure.
Vander Esch would say, hey, watch this, play here, do this, that. And when he lost that element, it was like the old Roy Williams, the safety, when Darren Woodson left. Roy Williams was wrecked as a player. He didn't have anybody he could lean on, rely on. I think this is going to be tough on Clark. And I say it in this way: new scheme, new things to learn, new things to pick up. These other guys, everybody's on really the same page. But are you able to pick things up quickly and process things quickly? I talked about it from the classroom to the field. He could be at a little bit of a disadvantage. He could be, because if you watch the way that he played, there's some things where you say, well, the instincts, or is he really reading it the right way? I give him a pass after, he shouldn't have played. I mean, his first year is amazing with the back and how he came back from that. And there were, as you mentioned, there were times he was very, very good. And when they backed him off the ball and he let him read and react, he was a little bit better. The closer he was playing to the line, the more trouble he had. So I think he might be, you say odd man out. I think he's a guy that is going to be fighting uphill. As maybe the other guys are ascending, he might be a guy that gets stuck on that hill.
I just want to read something that I just typed out while we were talking all day, Bryan Broaddus. I just want to read something to you.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Brooks versus Tolbert versus Cropper versus Turpin versus Flournoy,
right.
Truth or cap, Bryan Broaddus? We shouldn't have to worry about wide receiver 3 too much, because the jump that Jake Ferguson is about to make.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Will make you not worry about it too much. Truth or cap? We shouldn't be too tied down to wide receiver 3 because Jake Ferguson's on the way, Bryan. And these guys are just competing for the 4th option. Truth or cap?
You know what? That is that question was posed to Mike McCarthy in the press conference the other day, and he's talking. He kind of talked about, well, you can do some things. Yeah, I think there's truth to this. Mm-hmm. I think there's truth to this, what you're talking about. Maybe it's the tight end room as a whole. And I know we got bad information about Schoonmaker and, the hamstring and all that. And, people like, Broaddus, can we say this is a bust already? Yeah. I have my thoughts. My thoughts are, I'm going to give the kid a chance, but that's me. I saw something at Michigan, but that's another day, another time.
Sure.
As far as Ferguson goes, yeah, I don't think you have a third receiver. Yeah. I really don't. But where you make that up is you have a tight end that is really good playing seam football, playing underneath football, playing red zone football. So, and it's super tough. So, yeah, if it's Lamb, Cooks, Ferguson, and then find that other guy, whoever that is, I think you're absolutely onto something. I think that's true. I don't think that's cap at all. That, you can make up for weapons. Look what the Kansas City Chiefs do with Kelsey. They let Hill go, and all of a sudden, they got Rice and other guys. But that was a group that for a while there, Mahomes was having trouble getting any type of connection in the middle of the season. They were struggling at wide receiver, but what they kept doing, they kept throwing the ball to Kelsey.
Sure.
And it made up for any deficiencies they have. So I think that's a lot of truth to what you just said.
I think if we walk into this thing in our, offensive formula, right? All right, so Dak's going to throw the ball 35 times, right? Let's just say CeeDee Lamb gets 15 targets, So the next 20 will look something like, all right, Cook's got to get 8, So the next 12 would be, all right, Ferguson's got to get 6 or 7 or so. So really the only remaining targets, and it's just me just bouncing around, the only remaining targets for Tolbert, Turpin, Cropper, Brooks, Florida, somebody ain't gonna make it clearly. Yeah. But the catches left over or the targets left over is about 8 or so, 9 to maybe 10 10 targets left. Yeah. So then there's Schoon and all these other guys. So I don't think it's that big of an emergency. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Please.
I think there's a thought that maybe Ferguson gets more targets than Cooks.
I can buy that because
that I could see. This is going to sound, and you posed the question, but it's a really good question and a really good observation on your part. That having Ferguson, having Lamb and Ferguson as your primary two receivers, and Cooks doing the role of what he did. He picked up the Gallup role, which was the underneath stuff. I'm not going to lie to you, Voch. I was thinking that when Cooks came in here, it was going to be a vertical game with him. I've yet to see a real vertical game with him. I thought it was downfield plays. A lot of the stuff is he's been doing the things that you thought Michael Gallup was going to be able to do. And he picked up those rules, the underneath stuff, the picks, the drags, the things like that. He was picking up those. But I would not be one bit surprised if it's in your target distribution that Lamb, Ferguson have the most targets, and then everybody else, they kind of figure things out.
So how about this, Bryan? Voch says this. Let me just pose this to you, right? Mm-hmm. The Cowboys offense last year was nonsensical for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks or something like that. Yeah. But Brandon Cooks still finished with 8 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot. He wasn't a 1,000-yard receiver, but he was an 8 touchdown guy. If he's going to be your third receiver, Voch says this, Bryan, what do you think? If he's your third receiver, right, after Ferguson, would you rather him have 1,000 yards or would you rather him have the 6, 7, 8, 9 touchdowns?
Give me the touchdowns.
I agree.
Give me the touchdowns because I like we've just walked everybody through this. Ferguson, Lamb, they are a problem for defensive coordinators.
Sure.
If you're telling me that Cooks is getting 3-4 catches a game, but one of them's a touchdown, one of those catches is a touchdown.
It's a good day.
Good day.
It's a good day.
It's a real good day.
And I'm only posing this because I think Cowboy fans are kind of overinflating. Boy, Turpin got a lot of catches at practice yesterday. Boy, hey man, Flournoy look quick. Hey, look, I don't think it's going to be that many targets to go around. I think the Cowboys are probably going to try to run the football a little more than last year. I still think we're going to be a Dak dominant team, but we know who we are now. So
I agree.
So
I agree.
Last year it took us to the bye week to get it. We show up week 1. All right, CeeDee Lamb getting the ball 12 times. Ferguson's gonna go here. So now we know who we are. So in my mind, I don't think we can't be picky with the fourth receiving option, right? We can't be picky with the fifth receiving option, right? I think this is gonna be a Ferguson team. And to your point, one of the reasons why I think Ferguson's going to get way more catches than Cooks and targets is Ferguson's going to get the drawn up targets, right? All right, we're going to hit the seam. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But Ferguson's also going to get the check down easy stuff. Right. So Ferguson may be in double digit targets just like CeeDee Lamb is, just by way of, the check down blitz is coming, boom, quick stuff. You know what I mean? So get ready for a big ass Ferguson year, I'm assuming,
No, I think you're absolutely right. To me, if Ferguson ends up being my second receiver, I have no problem with that. If, in fact, the touchdowns that you talked about are made up with Cooks, as we've talked about, but Ferguson's going to get himself share of red zone touchdowns. He is going to be that guy. So there's going to be Lamb, Ferguson. If they're targeted the most, this offense is probably going to be successful.
One last thing, and I'm gonna let you go, Bryan. I'm gonna let you go work with Bobby and all that. Shouts out to Bobby Love Star Podcast.
Got it right after this one.
So you were talking about Luke Schoonmaker, and you were saying that there was some misinformation about his situation or whatever. So was he not injured yesterday, Schoonmaker? His hamstring?
Well, are they saying his hamstring injury? Is that what they're talking about? I thought he was because I reached out to the trainer and asked him about that, and I haven't heard back. So I was under the assumption did they say he was not injured? Is that what they're saying there?
They were saying that he was sitting out because of his hamstring. That's what they were saying.
Yeah, I reached out, and I have not heard back from the training staff on that one.
Okay.
There's a couple guys in the front office. There's a couple guys that I know that could probably, but I have not heard back from that one. So anything to keep him from practicing is not good. I mean, that's if anybody needs to practice, it's Mossy Smith and Luke Schoonmaker, but we'll see how that all plays out.
Luke puts us in a weird spot because he's the second round pick, and you would want the Cowboys to lean on their draft equity. But Steven damn near confirmed John Stevens Jr. was going to make the team last year. We just talked about Ferguson getting double-digit targets, and I don't think there's a world where like Hendershot's about to do nothing like too terrible. No. But boy, Bryan Broaddus, this dude right here, this dude on the way, Bryan Broaddus, this big old 270-pound character right here. Bryan, I'm not saying that Brevin Ford is going to come right in and just change the culture, but I'm just looking at some of his film, man. I think it's going to translate. I think it's going to make sense. Both of them are old 29-year-old men already, and I'm just waiting on Brevin Spanford to just come in and just catch Radius his way into some playing time, brothers. I can't wait, especially with Tyler Guyton needing a buddy attached to his hip because all these pass rushers are on the way.
That's a good-looking kid, man. You look at him like physically when he's walking around. That's one of the first things I noticed. I'm on the field. I'm going, damn, who's that number 47? And I look down at my roster and it's that kid. I'm like going, oh, okay. I understand where we're at right now. But yeah, this is they've got an interesting room with this tight end group, and hopefully they will they'll get it all figured out, which I think they will. But the running back room, the tight end room, that's wide receiver room. They've got some questions they have to clearly answer here.
This play from Brevin Ford, I love this the most because this from 2021. Karlaftis, he's about to beat the hell out of 20, and just Brevin's there to just save the day. Bryan, I just see this so much in like Guyton. Guyton's going to have a struggle with somebody, with some stud, and Brevin's just going to be right there to just – I ain't saying he's going to do all this to him, but I'm excited about this.
Hey, man, I'll tell you what, there's a couple of different ways you can attack these edges. Yeah. Is you could space them, you could double them, there's a lot of things you could do, and until Guyton gets all that down, there's going to be a lot of that to be had. Shouts out to Zeke. Hey man, Bryan Broaddus. we got Zeke back. Zeke needs to change that number from 15 to 51. Yeah, that's what he needs to do. Get him a big one though. Oh man, Bryan Broaddus. This was proud to present to y'all the Broaddus boys. Bryan Broaddus with another. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, sir. My Uncle Snoop. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, man. You've been working hard this off season on the YouTube, man. So I just want to say, as a fan of yours, you hate when I do this, but as a fan of yours, I appreciate the work you putting in, work with me, work with Jeff. You about to go work with Bobby. Hey man, it's there's a lot of Cowboy content and conversation to be out, man, and you are not running from none of it. So for everybody watching, thank you, sir. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yep. That's Bryan Broaddus, 105.3 The Fan, DallasCowboys.com. The draft is over, so we just kicking to talk about Mavs now, so y'all can tune in or something like that. He talk about baseball or something. They talking about hockey. They talking about something over there. All right, but that's all we got for y'all today. BRYN Broaddus on social medias, and I'm invite y'all know how to find me. Y'all hold it down until next time. Peace.